So glad you could join me today for PJ's Storytime. I have another great tale I'd like to share with you. Once upon a time, there was a poor miller who had a very beautiful daughter. Now it happened that one day the miller had an audience with the king. And in order to appear a person of much importance, the miller told the king he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. "Now that's a talent worth having," exclaimed the king. "If your daughter is as clever as you say, bring her to the palace tomorrow, and I will put her to the test." When the girl was brought the next day, the king led her into a room full of straw, and giving her a spinning wheel and spindle, said, "Now set to work and spin all night until dawn. If by that time you have not spun the straw into gold, you shall die." Then he closed the door, and she was left alone. The poor miller's daughter sat down, sorely perplexed what to do. She hadn't the least idea how to spin straw into gold, and at last was so downhearted she began to cry. Suddenly, the door opened, and in stepped a tiny little man who said, "Good evening, Miss Miller Maid, and why are you weeping so bitterly?" "Oh," she answered, "I have to spin straw into gold, and I haven't the first notion how it is to be done." "And what will you give me if I spin it for you?" he asked. "My handsome necklace," offered the girl quickly. The tiny man took the necklace and sat down at the spinning wheel. Whir, whir, whir. The wheel went around 3 times, and the bobbin was full. So it went on until morning, by which time all the straw was spun and all the bobbins full of gold. With the rising of the sun came the king to the room, and was both astonished and delighted when he saw all the gold. But his greedy heart only lusted after more of the precious stuff. He had the miller's daughter out in another room full of straw much larger than the first, and told her if she valued her life, to spin all of it into gold before the next morning. Again the girl did not know what to do, and she sat down and cried. Then the door opened as before, and the little tiny man was there, saying, "What will you give me if I spin this straw into gold for you?" "The ring from my finger," she offered quickly. The tiny man took the ring, and whir, 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 went the spinning wheel again, and by morning he had spun all the straw into glittering gold. Again the king was pleased, but his greed was still unsatisfied, and he had the miller's daughter taken into yet a larger room full of straw, and said, "You must spin all this into gold this night. If you succeed, you shall become my bride." "She's only a miller's daughter," he thought to himself, "but if I search the world over, I cannot find a richer wife." When the girl was once again alone, the tiny little man appeared for the 3rd time. "What will you give me if I spin this straw into gold?" "Ah, I have nothing more to give," she wept. "Then promise me that when you are queen, you will give me your first child," he said. Seeing no other way to save her life, the miller's daughter promised what the tiny man asked. So he once more spun the straw into gold. When the king came in the morning and found all as he had desired, he quickly made the poor miller's daughter his wife, and she ruled as queen. A year after, a beautiful son was born to her, And she thought no more of the tiny little man until all of a sudden one day he stepped into her room saying, "Now give me what you promised." The queen was in great distress and offered the tiny man all the wealth of her kingdom. But the little man said, "No, a living baby is dearer to me than all the world's riches." Then the queen began to cry so bitterly the tiny man grew sorry and said, "I'll give you 3 days to guess my name. If you find it out in that time, you may keep your son." The queen spent the whole night thinking over all the names she had ever heard, and she dispatched a messenger to go through the country to list any new names he might come across. When he approached the next day, she began with Gasper, Melikor, Belzevar, but after each one he cried out, "That's not my name." And the next day when she said, "Is it Sheepshank, or Crookshank, or Spindleshank?" he answered the same. The third day the messenger reported, "As I came up a high hill, I saw a little house. Around a fire danced a grotesque little man crying, 'Tomorrow I brew, today I bake, and then the child away I'll take. For little deems my little dame that Rumpelstiltskin is my name.'" When the little man appeared shortly afterward and asked, "Now, Lady Queen, what's my name?" she asked first, "Is your name Conrad?" "No." "Is it Harry?" "No." "Is it by chance Rumpelstiltskin?" "Some demon told you," screamed the tiny man, and in a fit of temper stamped the ground and ran off, never to be seen again. The end.